Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Trey Burton, the Chief of the Federal Probation Office for the District of Kansas. Chief Judge Martin read Mr. Negron's book several years ago and was moved and inspired. Judge Martin's vision for this particular session was that hopefully others would be moved and inspired. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chuck Negron.
Thank you. The video, when it first started, it's actually kind of backwards. It's spliced weird. Anyway, I'm with two young girls. Those are my two youngest daughters. One is 16, the other one's 23. We just finished an album together, which is a gift from God that these girls who've never seen me anything but sober and clean. And I got to invite them into my world because they're very, very talented and are interested in pursuing the arts. Actually, one just graduated from college, a very famous school in California for the arts. And to see me in my world and share that with them. And I would never have gotten to do that if I didn't get clean and sober. So that was a wonderful blessing in my life. I'm sitting here with so much going through my head, which is not usually the case in my head. Not much going on up there. Because I want so desperately to say something that will help. Because it's so important when a drug addict is all of a sudden thrown into the system, so to speak, and the people that they're working with have little or no knowledge about addiction. Now, that's not the case in a lot of states. And being here just a couple of days, I'm seeing the awareness of what the plethora of things needed to help someone who falls into addiction and someone who ends up in jail, and how to get them transition them from and being incarcerated to regular life. And I had all these different ideas, and and I'm just a lot not like anyone else. I'm just to have ideas. I don't know if they work. I know for me, when I went into my 37th rehab, I spent 13 years in and out of rehab. And the reason I did that, a lot of times I had to go. Sometimes I went just to get the pressure off me. But I kept going back because I saw people that I knew getting clean, and staying out of jail, and people coming out of prison and going into these places. And so what I saw work at this place called Cry Help was they had a contract with the prisons and youth authority, and then the general public. It was for the most part free. So there was a list that went on for years to get in this place. It was a very hardcore place. But what they did when you got out of prison, in lieu of being put on the streets or in a halfway house, you went to a rehab like Cry Help, that you had to be there for at least a year. You did not get to make a phone call for 60 days. You did not get to have a visit for 90 days. And when you had about 8 months, 9 months, you had to get a job, and you had to earn enough money to rent a place. So you had to work, earn enough money to rent a place, turn on the lights, and boom, and then you release. But the thing that before all that had happened, the fact that someone who's incarcerated is put into this setting of people from all over. Some have been incarcerated, most haven't. Most are, people are just, trying, kind of thrown into this really little taste of life outside of the prison system. And everyone came together, and it was a wonderful thing. And a lot of these people are clean and sober today that had spent much time being incarcerated. So that's one of the things I thought was a good thing, that in lieu of just being put on the streets, I don't know, are halfway houses, are they oriented to like a rehab, or are they just they are? Okay, so it's pretty much the same. Okay, never mind. Okay, so there's a price to pay. And I don't know if it translates. If someone would have said to me that when you get older, you're gonna walk around with an oxygen tank because you so devastated your lungs with cigarettes and crack and several accidents, that one of which that tore my lung apart, and with my ribs just ripped my lung apart. And when I healed, the band, Three Dog Night, was so upset with me because I couldn't work that I worked. And I got pneumonia. And we were on the road for a year, had pneumonia for a year. So one of my lungs turned just totally black. So that's a price that, probably a normal person would say, hey, you know what, I'm sick. But if you're a drug addict, you have this baggage that you carry because you're weighing so many people down. And so at any rate, so now I have, I have emphysema, and I have this oxygen thing. But the thing is, because I'm clean and sober, I don't care. It doesn't. I'll be honest, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I look at it as accessories. Just if I have to, I'll decorate. So God and my faith has made me so strong in the sense that this is nothing compared to what I've gone through. Nothing. It's a necessary to make part of my life, and so so be it. So that's one of the things. Now, when I was around 5 or 6 years sober, I got a call from Rick James. And I don't know if some of you know Rick James. He's basically the father of funk, and just a great artist. And he did crack. And he called me from, you know who Dr. Drew is? Well, anyway, Dr. Drew had a rehab, and Rick was in it. He called me to come and see him. His lungs were gone. He barely could talk, and he asked me what I thought, and I said, "Stay here. You're in a hospital. You belong here." And at any rate, when he got out, he immediately started drinking, and I went to see him one more time, and he said, "Oh, I don't want to end my life. I want to go out and party." And it was very obvious the guy was not healthy. So I gave him the advice I could, but he never really tapped into sobriety. He never really touched the miracle, the gift, the blessing of being clean and sober. That relief that you get when you go, God, I'm free. I no longer have to do this. I don't have to use anymore. I don't want to. I don't have to. And it didn't touch him. And a lot of it has to do with the addict themselves, because when you're an addict for a while, your right of choice is removed, because you're nuts. So you cannot make any rational decisions. So your right of choice, and that's what happened to him. And his roommate called me a couple of weeks later, said, "Chuck, please, you got to help him. He's really using. He's going to die." And I did something that I regretted doing. I said, "Look, tell him to call me when he wants to call me." And 2 days later, he died. And I didn't go. I felt so bad I didn't go and see him, but he died. And it's a tragic thing. And that stuff happens over and over again. 2 days before Kurt Cobain died, I got a call to go see him. He was actually in a rehab. And I was on my way there, and they called me and said he left. He jumped out the window. Now, he could have walked out the front door. I don't know why he jumped out the window. But anyway, because he was full of shame, that's why. And he went home, and there's a thing that happens to an addict when all the hope is gone that you can get clean. When you say to yourself, I don't want to do this anymore, but I can't stop. I can't do it. And the next thought is kill yourself. And sadly, that's what happened to him. Now, when I started getting myself in trouble, of course, I was hooked up immediately with lawyers, good lawyers, and Robert Shapiro was one of them. And Robert's a nice guy, and he was a genius. And he would do anything to win, or most of the time make a deal. He liked to make a deal. And he had a whole team, but no one there was there considering they were working with a sick person. They're trying to work out something to help, to help me. What they were there for was to get me off with community service, or, change the charge. So, I was thinking, with all the brilliance that someone like Robert had, if he would work with you guys or other attorneys, that once they heard they had an addict that was in trouble, they could immediately talk to someone in the defense team area or something, and start talking immediately about getting these people into recovery, as opposed to two sides battling it out. One wants to win, get them free. The other one wants to put them away, and try to work something out. Now, I don't know if that's possible, but I do know one thing. There are judges that are changing things around. You have one here. There are a couple in L.A. They have drug court in L.A., which I speak for their graduations. And I'm embarrassed, I can't remember this judge's name. Anyway, I'm glad I remember mine. Oh, you don't know. No, I've hit myself so many, I didn't hit myself, I hit something, ran into something with my head so many times. I've had many concussions. This is one of the things that I was one of these guys. When I got loaded, I said, "Hey, time to drive." It's out of my mind. Anyway, the judge, I can't remember his name, in L.A., started drug court, and some of you might have heard me say this, but what is it? It's a 2-year. Well, it can be 5 years, but you need to be clean for 2 years. Every single day you get tested. And when you get 2 years, you graduate. And then in between is all this work to prepare you to re-enter into society, to deal with anger. Because it is my recollection that when I first got clean and sober and came out of jail, I was angry. I was very angry. I wasn't going to hurt anybody. I weighed 126 pounds, but I yelled a lot. Anyway, get these people, help them deal with so many issues. And Trey and I were talking about this. There's just so much anger with people, that have addictions, and people, because the reasons they do use drugs are very, kind of scary where they came from. Now, I have my own story about where I came from, but I don't think it has anything to do why I used drugs. I used drugs in the 60s because everyone was using drugs. And I just wanted to be one of the guys, and because I'd never used drugs in my life. I played college basketball. I'd left New York on a scholarship. Matter of fact, I got a scholarship offer here. That was my thing. Never drank. Never in college. Never got drunk in college. So when the '60s came around and everyone was getting loaded, I don't know what happened. I made a decision just to partake with some people. Within 2 weeks, my friends were going, "You got a problem." I said, "I haven't done drugs. I took drugs for 2 weeks my whole life." "What do you mean I have a problem?" I said, "You're not supposed to use LSD every day, Chuck." So I was, some people are predisposed to conditions of addiction, even though they don't use, and they manifest that in other obsessive behaviors. But once they open that door, turn on the light, I should say, to addiction, they're in harm's way. Now, I'm sure some of you know that alcoholism is for when someone, a regular person takes a drink, nothing really happens. If I take a drink, it's within 5 minutes. "Hi, I'm Chuck." I'm out there thinking I'm the greatest thing in the world, and what happens is, a mental craving begins immediately. And once you have a drink and you're an alcoholic, an actual mental, physical craving happens to you that can only be satisfied by a drink. So you have the drink, it manifests itself again, and the only thing can stop that craving is another drink. And then that's what happens. Now, you go to bed, you get up the next day, that craving is gone until you have the next drink. If you do that, it happens more and more and more, and the next thing you know, a mental obsession, not physical, a mental obsession begins. So you have this physical craving, and now you have a mental obsession, which is telling you you have to drink, and now you're and now you're in trouble. And that's what happens to drug addicts, and it perpetuates itself. Today there are so many different drugs, and drugs are becoming legal. I mean, marijuana is, as we all know, is legal in a lot of places. For me, I think it's a gateway drug, and I think a dangerous thing. But there are many views, many views on that. What it has done is it has made a lot of people aware, people like yourselves, that drugs. A lot of people are taking drugs. Let me see what else. Rick. I've never looked at notes before, but I don't remember anything anymore. So, and now I can't read my own writing. Actually, I don't know if it's my writing or it's just I can't see. No, I can. Let's see what I say. Okay, talked about that. I talked about that. I talked about that. I'm done. So I got out of Cry Help went into Cry Help September 17th, 1991. And I got out a little over a year later. And I've stayed clean and sober for 25 years, staying very, very close to that place. Now, the last several years, I haven't, because my life has become more full. I have a girl now 16 years old that I like to, when she's with me, take her to school, and I have, since she was a little girl. And then I work in the summer. I work in the summers. Totally forgot what I was talking about. What was I talking about? Anyone listening? What? Oh yeah, thank you. And I've been clean. I've been clean since. Now all I got to do is remember the point I wanted to make. Okay. Anyway. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now the first 15 years, I was very active in Cry Help, and we recently did a benefit there. I did a benefit for them, and I've done many, but I sponsored a lot of people there, which is quite a commitment. You got to take them out twice a week. You got to take them to a meeting, take them out to dinner, take them out to lunch, whatever. You take them out, integrate them back into the world. But the thing, and sponsor them, and it's such an important thing. Now, I was very lucky. My sponsor really helped me. I mean, he taught me the big book. He didn't give me his opinion on anything. I'd ask him something. He'd go, page 59. He's like one of these guys. He knew the whole book. And so I'd read it, and I'd go, wow, that's right on. So I would try to do that with the guys that I worked with. Now, I don't know if this has anything to do with, with the reason I'm here. But one of these guys that I started working with, he started talking about being abused as a child, being molested, and it had ruined his life, and he was drinking, and he brought up a lot of stuff for me, because I spent. When I was just right before I was 8 years old, I was 7, almost 8 years old. My sister and I were put in an orphanage, and the guy there that ran the counselor that was there from like 3 o'clock through the night was a pedophile. Now, I was a little young for him, but he did like, the 10-year-olds. And I saw things, a young child should never see. But beyond that, when a child loses all sense of security and safety for their well-being, they lose a perspective on life. Life becomes hell. It becomes hell. So it was a very scary thing. So when this kid started talking about this, it broke my heart. But through the steps and through the stuff that I learned in recovery, I was actually able, through the 12 steps, 12 steps, to show him how to get through to him and then totally convince him that his anger and resentment had to be let go, and that what he needed to do was forgive this guy. He had to forgive him only to be set free. The only thing that would set him free from the prison that he was in was to be unlocked. The guy was the only one that could unlock us. So we got him to actually forgive this guy and move on. And it's been a wonderful journey, him and I. And then, to show the curves of life, one day we're writing, and he tells me the name of the guy. And it's the producer of Three Dog Night, the guy we made all our records with. And the signs were all there. But what I went through as a kid, I turned a blind eye. There was always little kids around. They answered the phone. It was this bizarre. But to show how I was reminded what I was teaching this guy to forgive and to move on was so much harder than I thought it was, because then I couldn't forgive the guy. I could not let go of this guy doing this. And I'll be honest, I work on it just today. I wrote a chapter. I have another book coming out. I just wrote a chapter on this whole experience of trying to some way trying to get to forgiveness, so I am free of this the anger that that I bear. Through my time, there's been too many guys that have gone in and out of jail, prison, and rehabs, with only rehab, the only place that really addresses, their issues. That, while they're incarcerated and not being prepared as they come out, how to assimilate back into society, how to really learn the tools. Now, see, the 12-step tools, really, they're the Bible for addicts. They're the map. Like, you guys that don't drink or use, you have a system already in place. Addicts don't, and this book is, the AA book is 12 steps. It's our guide to living free, productive lives. And I know that, but still, I have a son, a 37-year-old son, been in prison twice. With all the help I could afford him, he went to prison twice. The last kid in the world that belonged in prison, he's a little slow. He got caught in two stings, that a blind person wouldn't get caught in. And I can't believe it. They put him in prison. And when he came out, we got him into program after program, and right now he's doing well. But nothing clicked. And it's very hard to see your son not get it, and he's such a lovely. He's not a criminal in the sense it's not a mean bone in his body. He's an addict, and he uses drugs. So when I would hear what the things that happened to him in prison, it made me go, oh my God, what's going on in there? How can you get a drug addict in prison in a place that has more drugs than where he came from? I don't know how many of you went to the last session, but my son, I had to save his life several times by driving up there, and visiting day, and meeting Crips in the parking lot, and the women from the Mexican cartel coming to my hotel room to pay them off, and and it was $25,000 of his drug debts. And I said, how does that happen in prison? And I went to visit him one day, and they wanted to send me a message that my son was really in harm's way. And the day before the visiting day, my son was standing with his cellie, and they stabbed his cellie in the neck and said, "This is for Chuck." And so when I got there, the first thing I heard, and it was from a guard, "Pay your debts," from a guard. So, that's not a system that is conducive to helping anyone. I mean, it was scary. Now, I don't know how that happens. I don't know, that I don't have any expertise in it. All I knew was it was broken. Now, when I was one of my stays, I had an epiphany on one of my stays in jail in county, LA County, but they were very nice to me. The police, they were very nice to me. They actually kept me out of harm's way. I was almost beaten a couple times. But anyway, what was I going to say? Yeah, I had an epiphany. You're going to have to travel with me. I noticed that some of the guards were still kind of alive, with some kind of compassion and zest, a little zing left. And others were, in a sense, almost dead and angry, and just, they assumed this other thing. And I found out that the guys that was still kind of cool had only been there less than 2 years. The guys that weren't had been there a long time. And they were almost affected, as affected as the prisoners. How they were affected by the experience, the violence, and all that stuff. And then I thought, I don't think anyone can work in this setting like in LA. The marshals, what they do is they turn those guys around. You can only do it 2 years, and then you're out of there, because they know their people get hurt after that amount of time, not emotionally, not physically. So they rotate them, and I found that was a good thing, because the other guys were more open to treating addicts and prisoners like they were human beings, as opposed to guys that just pissing them off. Because some guys, some guys in prisons will kill you. So you're dealing with people that very scared. But that's not the case with everyone. So anyway, that was my epiphany. And then also they would take me around. Not the guys that had just been there a short period of time. The kind of hardcore guys, police, marshals, I guess, would take me around to the cells and show me the different, the different people. And it was sad to see the condition of some of these people. And they were telling me, showing me so I don't come here. Don't, but what I also saw was they had no respect or regard for these other human beings, and it was hard. So some of these jobs, there is a very high price to pay for these young, men who are putting themselves in harm's way. It's just like, guys that go off to war. They come back different. And I think the same thing happens. So it's, I don't know how you address that. I do know that if there's an open dialogue so drug addicts can talk to probation officers. Now, my first experience with probation officers, and I know it's not this way, was I was tired, and I was in jail, and then I got out, and then I had a meeting with the probation officer, and he said, if there's one needle mark on you, the next guy he'll see it from a mile away, and all this, he went on and on and on. And then he went, look, if you're having trouble, just tell me. And I did. Told him everything. I told him everything because I decided, I want help. I can't do this anymore. And he wasn't there to help me. He was there to put me in jail. And that's exactly what he did. I got an 18-month sentence. Now, I didn't serve 18 months. Robert Shapiro got me out, but Robert, I got time. You write down, do you have the money? Actually, that's why I went to jail. Robert said, you owe me, I needed it. I can't give it to you until click, directly to jail. That should be a monopoly. Pay Robert Shapiro, go right to jail. Right to jail. Anyway, you know what? I did this earlier. Let me take, I'd really love to answer some questions. So I know I'm answering and addressing something that you might want to know, as opposed to me just, rambling on and forgetting what I'm talking about. There you go.
Why was the 32nd time as opposed to 31st time?
What did you say?
Why was the 32nd time?
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah. What happened? I went in to cry help, and I was pissed off because I thought it was okay to steal my girlfriend's car. But she didn't, so she put me in jail. And in lieu of going to jail, I went to Cry Help. Now, Cry Help was the last house on the block. It was a tough place. Anyway, I was not there to get clean. Not at all. But I got so sick because in Cry Help, you kick cold. There's no medication. Everyone's in there kicking cold. And I was kicking methadone and heroin. So I was pretty sick. Anyway, I got so sick, and my sponsor was coming to see me, who was from Kansas, by the way, and he said, you need to pray. So I took that information and I went into the dorms and I got on my knees and I prayed to die. Please let me die or take away this obsession to drink and use for 1 minute. I wasn't even caring about being sick. It was about the obsession was driving me out of my mind. It wouldn't stop. You got to get loaded. We're going to get loaded. Oh, we'll steal a chair. There's a bus. Get on the bus. Oh, you don't have any money. Oh, you'll ride on the back. Just never stop. Never stop. So I prayed to die or just give me a moment's relief from this obsession. And I lied down and I fell asleep. And I fell asleep and I slept for a couple hours in the middle of withdrawal from methadone and heroin, which you do not sleep. And when I woke up, the obsession was gone. So it wasn't anything I did. I think, this is my feeling. God intervened, and it was gone. It hasn't come back in 25 years. The obsession was removed. And when I told my caseworker there, he immediately got me to work because he knew I was pliable. He knew I was ready to work, and he got me right into the steps, called my sponsor. My sponsor got me together, took me up with the best meeting in LA of hardcore people of sobriety and clean time. In other words, they didn't want to hear anything but sobriety. When you got up and spoke, you spoke about what you needed in sobriety, and I learned the whole program for that. So that's how it was. It was, for me, it was a gift. Thank you, sir. Oh, come on.
You want to talk about some significant people that were meaningful for you, that helped you?
Well, in Cry Help, I got to a point, it's very, 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 very fragile because I only weighed 126 pounds. I'm a 200-pound man. You can't even imagine what I look like. Although I have to tell you, I thought I looked really good. No, really. I took my first shower. I took there and shaved the first time in months, and I'll never forget that, looking in the mirror going, looking good. Anyway, so they got me the steps, and there were some things I could not do because of my physical illnesses. And a lot of the staff were people that went through Cry Help. They were recovering, who had done very well, and they'd got their certificates, they'd gone to college and but they still were hardcore drug addicts. So they were rough. And there was one that really was upset I wasn't doing the work, and he kept pushing me to do this and do that, and I would do it and I'd get sick. And so they had a meeting, and they were going to discharge me. And if you got one vote, you were out. Out of 15 people, if only one person put their hand up, you were out. You had to be unanimous. So before the vote, this woman, Marlene Nadell, stood up and said, if we release this guy, because my caseworker told me this, will you release this guy, he will die. He will not make it. Look at him. You need to let him stay. He's not here to learn how to sweep and clean. And they all agreed, and they let me stay. And she watched me closely, because then I went through a period of waking up, you know, all the feelings, wake up, because they're dead, and they have been dead for years. And I woke up and I realized I'm 50 years old and my fortune was gone. I had a fortune, it was gone. Everything I could have given my kids was gone. And I was a pathetic loser. And at 50 years old, I was going to have to start all over. And what was I going to do? And I was angry and I was depressed. And this woman and my sponsor helped me through this. I did some things in that place that I should have gotten thrown out for, but she actually put me in an area of the place where I was just with a couple of people so they could take care of me when I lost it. And I got over that. And everything that a man in his 50s who basically came from homelessness and at one time had great success, thank you, and money, I got past it all, and I finally got to the point in my life I was just grateful to be alive and grateful to be clean and sober. And then I got a job. I got a job in a hospital for addicted and abused adolescents. And when I went in this place, it was a lockdown ward. It was just like the orphanage. It was just like the orphanage. And these young kids, I just knew how they felt. And I became very, very good at the job, as you know, someone making a report would say, but the kids, they just loved me because I understood them. I totally knew where they come from, and I loved that job. And I stayed with that, and I graduated from Cry Help, and I stayed, I stayed on that job. And then one day they said, you know what, Chuck, you really have never done a night shift. You have to do the night shift. And I asked my sponsor, and he said, no, that's the way you used to live, up all night. He said, we have got you on a good schedule. We're going to have to find something else for you. And within a couple of days, I got a call from the girl. Remember the Golden Girls? I got a call from the producer of the Golden Girls saying they're doing a new show and they want me to sing the title song. So I went in there. I got a really nice payday. I went, oh, I remember this. This is cool. And I was on TV for a year and got paid every time I played. And someone saw my name on this TV show that ran the Sands in Atlantic City, or I think it was the Sands, and asked if I wanted to open up for Howie Mandel. And I did, and boom, I was back in the business. And it's all because I was clean and sober. And a lot of people helped me. Yes.
What happened that was unproductive during the first 36 rehabs? What should rehabs do to change?
A lot of them treated me differently than they did the other people. It's kind of, you immediately can tell when someone, is treated, has that attraction because you're an entertainer or something. So a lot of things I got it a little easier, and I kind of took advantage of it. For the most part, I think it's just making sure you have the right staff and the right stuff. Is now when I first started going in rehab, it was the 80s, so insurance was wide open. I mean, these rehabs had masseuses. They hot tubs. I mean, it was like it was amazing. Insurance paid for everything. It all changed. So a lot of them were just kind of misguided. I think that what rehabs have to be a very stern environment that's all based on learning the skills of AA and getting back in life, to be a compassionate, productive part of society, look forward to life in a very positive way, and if you're a guy, stay away from women for a year. Thank you. And but that's a great question. I'm trying to think. See, I went through so many of them, not even noticing what they were offering, because I was there. But I went to also several of my son when my son was there, and they were great. I mean, they offered him so much. He just missed it. But I think you have to get people ready to leave, get ready to go back into life. I think that's a big, important thing. And they don't. You're kind of done, and you're thrown back into the same environment. People have to be taught to be really courageous. You might have to move. You might have to end your relationship. That's how important recovery is. Some really big decisions have to be made, else you're in trouble. Oh, come on, girls.
There's a question back here.
How did your family and friends react during all your years? Do you think that they enabled you, or do you think that they cut you off and you still use? Or how did that all work with your friends and family?
Yeah, that's a great question. For the most part, what I have seen around is there is a cornucopia of enabling. People don't know how to handle it. That was my case only in the last 5 years. But my mom wouldn't even, she'd hang out. I called her Christmas one day, one year, and she hung up on me. Mom, you peek. My father was there for me, but not in an enabling way. When I was on the street, she'd let me spend some time, at his home. So I didn't have much of that, because really no one wanted me around. I was a real pain in the ass, So, but I saw it, and then the last 5 years I was with an attorney, and she was just determined to save me, and she went through hell. She went through hell, but in the end, she'd always bail me out. Yes. I'm sorry, say that again.
What advice would you have for a judge with somebody like you after you were suffering condition cured from the judge?
That's a great question. I would take someone like me and set him free. And if you have any cash, no, go directly to rehab. I think a connection to the real serious rehabs need to be made, a connection where the rehab appreciates what a judge is doing, is trying to manifest something new, to create something new, and there has to be this connection where the commitment is to really get some numbers. We need to get some people sober. Putting them in jail, unless they do a serious crime, but just putting them in jail is ridiculous. I mean, it just fills up the jails more. So I would say, real connections have to be made. Now, Cry Help had an unbelievable connection with the prison system and the youth authority, and it really worked, except for the youth authority. You might probably know the kids were too violent. Not the prison guys, the youth authority. They were too violent. The kids were really, they didn't have that respect, that different thing going on. Anyway, yeah, I would say rehab. Thank you. Are you a judge?
I am. You just helped me.
Well, if I ever come up in front of you, set me free. Okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
I have a friend that I know needs to be in rehab, and he doesn't believe that he does, and I've often wondered, I
Well, the concept is very true, but I have seen it in my case where I went in just not to go to prison for stealing a car and borrowing, actually. Borrowing a car. And I went in there just not to go to prison. And that's the one I got sober in. That's the one I got sober in. It happened. They were so good, and they guided me through all the pain and anger, where a lot of these places, when I started getting angry, they just wanted me out of there. Get hit, and I left. So, although they say if you haven't hit bottom, you're not going to get it. Some people get it when they get it. Some people get it right away. So you just don't give up. And I think in life we play the numbers too much. We play the percentages too. Oh, thank you. I'm done. She just put up a 0. You're on my time, buddy. Anyway, thank you. Thank you very much.